Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Believe in Me Impact Reporting Information Session. I'm Julie Wuglik, Chief Executive Officer here at Believe in Me, and I'm going to be guiding you through today's information session, which is all about how to successfully complete our impact reporting form. I just wanted to start out by saying welcome to our 2024 Grant Impact Reporting info session. We're really glad you guys were able to join the call. Today we're going to be going over, kind of what all the requirements are for our impact reports and kind of give you a nice tutorial how to and give you the why behind everything. So Believe in Me and your organization have partnered together in 2024 to really impact marginalized youth in very big ways, and we're really excited to be a part of what you have going on. And part of our due diligence and good stewardship of the funds we've been entrusted with is making sure that our the funds that we're spending out in the community are actually impacting kids in the ways that we intended to when we funded the grant. So we appreciate all the hard work and due diligence you guys put into serving youth every single day. But then on top of that, really shining a spotlight on the impact that this is making in the community. So I'm just going to start off today by showing you where our grant reporting page is. So on our website, if you go to believeinme.org, there's a little section for nonprofits. You would have come here to apply for your grant. But the very last option there is grant reporting. So if you need to go back and refer to it, it's pretty easy to find. But we'll just kind of quickly review some of the items that are on this page. So first and foremost is we have some important dates that you need to put on your calendar. So May 15th is when your first impact report will be due. And we'll be going over that form today in today's info session. We'll be going over that in length. So on September 15th, your second impact report is due, and then the final impact report will be due on January 15th of the following year. So congrats for making it to today's info session. We're hopeful that you'll learn a lot about our expectations, and so that this is a great opportunity for you to have your questions answered. If you want to just throw those in the chat while they come to you, I'm going to have Leslie Cogley, our grants administrator, answer those questions in real time, and hopefully I will be able to see that as well and can share the responses with the group. But first off, before we dive into everything, I just wanted to encourage all of you to please look on LinkedIn. We'd like to stay connected with those of you who are part of our nonprofit network. So you can find me at linkedin.com/in/Julie Wuglik. Please connect with me. Great way to stay connected and share information. Secondly, I wanted to introduce you to our grants administrator, Leslie Cogley. She's been with us for a little over a year now, but for all questions related to grants, grant reporting, impact reporting, please reach out to her. She also has office hours, which I believe are probably on our website, but she makes herself available to chat with folks with any questions pertaining to grants. So without further ado, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Be sure to connect with both of us on LinkedIn, and feel free to call or email anytime. We're here to help. So going back to those important dates, basically this info session is kind of the who, what, where, when, why, how of our impact reporting process. So we've got the when part down. So let's talk about the why. So the IRS does have some requirements about how to adequately document transactions with regards to financial records. And so I encourage each of you to go ahead and visit the IRS website to understand what kind of items can be used to document expenses. And so these would include things like canceled checks or other documents cash register tape receipts, that's kind of our preferred one because it kind of encapsulates everything. Account statements and credit card receipts and statements and invoices. And so a combination of those supporting documents may be needed to substantiate all elements of an expense. And we kind of follow the IRS's guidelines for what is appropriate documentation and what isn't. And so you'll see that inside our form that we do request that you enter details about your receipts and then scan a copy of it. So if you have questions regarding the IRS portion of that, they've got a video here that can help educate you and your organization on proper financial transaction recording and documentation. And once again, if you have any questions that you'd like addressed by our team, you can call us at 509-448-1412. Once again, we do have that IRS guidance here. You can watch that training video. If you have any questions, reach out to us. And then here's the link where you will find the ability to schedule time with Leslie Cogley, our grants administrator. She makes herself available every weekday at 11 a.m. to answer questions, anything pertaining to grants. So please use that link to help be mindful of her time, and hopefully we'll get all of your questions answered. So in the impact reporting process, you're going to be receiving a series of emails that start a few weeks before the deadline for each impact reporting period. You'll get a quick little reminder, and inside that reminder email will be a link to a pre-filled form. So it will have some fields that are pre-populated based off of what you submitted on your grant application. And from there, we're going to be asking you to update us with your key performance indicators. Now, when you submitted your grant application, you submitted a key performance indicator that you plan to be measuring throughout the course of this grant period. So if you've got all those measurement factors in place, this should kind of be a no-brainer. This information session is a great opportunity for you to kind of take a step back, look at the KPI that you put into your application, and make sure that so far you've been measuring this. If not, I highly recommend getting a measurement mechanism in place between now and May 15th, which is your first reporting deadline. So if you have questions about what you submitted for your key performance indicator, I recommend that you go ahead and reach out to Leslie Cogley, and she can potentially get you a copy of your grant application if you don't have one already. The other thing that you'll need to do to prepare for your impact reporting process is to gather all of your source documents. Now, going back to that guidance from the IRS, those will be the items that we will be requesting from you to document that the grant funds have been spent in the way that you've been approved to spend them. So you'll need to collect all your financial source documents. So that would be things like receipts, account statements, canceled checks, and any other relevant financial records. What we do not accept for your financial source documents would be reports out of your accounting software. That's not detailed enough for us to be able to consider it a source document. So we're asking for receipts, account statements, canceled checks, anything that gives us a paper trail documenting that you actually paid for the item that you've been approved to have the expenditure for. The next item that you'll need to prepare, and maybe you'll have a marketing person help you with this part, is to round up some recent photos and some marketing materials that we can use to help illustrate the impact of your program. We really want to shine a spotlight on you out in the community. And so to make this easier on our team, we'd like for you to just round up some pictures. If you have some video content, if you have a flyer, anything that you've got that you can share with us that really show the good work that you're doing in the community for our marginalized kids, we would love to have that. So you'll be given an opportunity to upload that on the form. So we highly recommend just kind of gathering that and getting it all ready to upload. And then we're also going to ask for any updates that need to be communicated about your program. Sometimes you have staffing changes, leadership changes. Maybe the program isn't quite going the way that you thought. Maybe you've had to pivot and go another direction. this is your opportunity to communicate that with our grants administration committee, just so that we're on the same page, and that if any changes are occurring, that we're kind of mitigating any risks or any problems that you may encounter down the road. We want to just kind of stay on the same page. And then it's just after you've gathered everything, it's a matter of just clicking on the link that comes to you in your email and filling out the pre-filled form. We're hoping that this won't be terribly burdensome. So without any more delays, I think we'll go ahead and just kind of take a peek at the form and walk you through it step by step. So once again, that'll come to you via email, and you'll have a link that's specific to your organization. Now in this sample one, I don't have the information pre-populated because we don't want to share anyone's confidential information. So we're just gonna use a blank form. So it'll have your program name. It's going to spit out what the goal was that you had stated what you had for 2024 for your program. And then in this next field, it'll share how you planned to measure the progress of your program throughout 2024. And then the next item that it'll share with you is all the resources that you predicted that you would need to reach your objectives with this program. And then basically this is the time-bound features of what you were hoping to do with those funds. So this is basically what we call a SMART goal. On the next page, it's going to talk about those key performance indicators that I mentioned earlier. So when we did your due diligence workshops last fall, we talked quite at length about your key performance indicators and what would be, how to set those. And we gave everyone an opportunity to go in and revise those. So ideally, they're optimized for something that's easy for you to measure and that you're already measuring, and that none of this will be a big surprise to you. But in the case that it is, we highly recommend getting those mechanisms in place right away. So this first field will just to show you what you told us your goal KPI was going to be. And then it also has what you shared as your baseline KPI. So if you're already measuring it, it would have had where you were at when you submitted your grant application. And then we're just going to, at each reporting interval, we're going to ask you to update your KPI for this reporting period. So basically, you just take the measurement at this point in time and throw that in there. And hopefully over the course of the year, what we're hoping to see is measurable growth, measurable impact. We want to see how these funds are helping the kids in your nonprofit program. And so then the next field, we're going to share with you the list of grant expenses that have been approved as part of your grant award. And so this is what you agreed to when you signed your grant award acceptance letter back in December, January timeframe. This list shouldn't have changed. So just keep in mind, the one thing that we absolutely will not cover is payroll expenses. But other than that, if it was listed in the items that were itemized in your grant award acceptance letter, you should be good to go with submitting those receipts. So
Julie, I wanted to add something to that as well. I get a question a lot about quote unquote staff time as it pertains to things like trainings and other things. And I just want to point out that also our committee does kind of view that as payroll as well, because it really is if you're dedicating hours of staff's paid time to something. So my advice is that if you feel like it's towing the line for payroll, don't use it as part of your expenses here, because our committee is just going to frown upon that. So just stick to what is listed and what is tangible.
Gotcha. That's a good point to make, because we do get a lot of people that try to sneak that in there. And it looks like Tina has a question about the items that are approved. So if your question is pertaining to the whole group, we'll go ahead and answer it. Otherwise, I highly recommend that you schedule some time with Leslie Cogley using that link on our grant reporting information page to talk to her during her office hours, or you can just shoot her an email with your question and she'll go ahead and get that answered. looks like Tina's questions were maybe specific to her application, so we're going to go ahead and move on. So on our data entry section of the grant reporting form, this is the part that will probably take you the longest. Once again, we are asking for documentation of expenses that were approved only in your grant award acceptance letter. For each receipt or invoice or statement that you have, we would like for you to type in the vendor name, the date of the transaction. Then we'd like for you to provide a description of the specific items that were purchased for that receipt. You're going to give us like the name of the items, the quantity of the items, and the unit prices. And then you'll put the total amount for that receipt or invoice. And then we want to know the amount expense to the program budget, only if it's different than the total amount. So what this would be is, take for instance, if you went out to Office Depot and maybe your total was $100, but only 50 of that was applicable to this program. Maybe the other 50 was just your normal office supplies. Maybe you printed out flyers to promote your program using budgeted funds that we had approved, but the total was 100. So you would put the total amount as 100 here, but the amount expense to the program budget, only 50, if that makes any sense. You only use this field here if the amount that you want allocated for this receipt to your program is different than the total amount of the receipt. Hopefully that makes sense to everyone. Next, on that same transaction, we want for you to tell us, is this a program service expense, a management and general expense, or a fundraising expense? And you may have questions about what the differences are there. But basically a program service expense is any cost that's directly related to delivering the organization's core mission and program, specifically the one that we have approved as part of your grant award letter. So if it's specifically designated for this program, let's call it a program service expense. If it is not a program service expense, it should fall into one of these other two categories: management in general, which is any expense that's associated with the overall administration and operational management of your nonprofit, not specifically for your program services. The other category it could fall into is a fundraising expense, which is a cost that you incur throughout the process of soliciting and collecting donations. So there is a slight difference between fundraising and perhaps program service advocacy. So make sure that you use the right expense category there. Fundraising is literally going out to solicit donations, whereas program services, you could be out there doing some marketing of your program, and it could fall under program services. So if you have questions about that, feel free to reach out to us again. Once again, Leslie has her office hours at 11 a.m. on weekdays. You can find the link to that on our grant reporting page, and hopefully you'll get your questions answered. So this is the field where you indicate which one of those expense categories it goes to. And for the most part, most of your expenses should go into the program service category. That's really where we like to see a good majority of the funds spent. And then the expense type, you're going to go in here and just indicate what type of an expense it is, just to give us a better idea of, what it's for. And then if you need to add another receipt, so, you'll have maybe a $5,000 grant, you're going to have multiple receipts over the course of the year to substantiate these expenses. So in order to do additional receipts, you're going to click on this plus add item, and it will allow you to enter another receipt. So keep entering those receipts until you get to the last one. And then once you've entered your last receipt, then you'll click next. Now, one thing to keep in mind as you are going out and spending your funds, as it pertains to grant reporting, our grants administration committee does not really care how many receipts you enter or how many, well, our goal would be to just document that the funds were used in the way that they were approved for the specified purposes. And so what we recommend is enter your largest expenditures first. And what that means is, whatever you're going to spend the greatest amount of money on, let's get that entered first so that you're not nickel and diming yourself and having to do a bunch of data entry. We don't want this process to be burdensome or onerous for your staff. So please just focus on the larger ticket items first that have been pre-approved. And then another idea that we have for some organizations that, a good example might be where you're hosting an after school program or maybe a lunchtime program on campus at a school with children, and you're buying pizza for them every week. We do not want to have to make you enter every week's pizza receipts in here. Our suggestion here is maybe at the beginning of your grant impact reporting, when you start spending your funds, just if you know that you're going to spend X number of dollars on pizza for the year, we recommend going to the pizza vendor that you're planning to use and just purchasing in bulk a bunch of gift cards so that you can use those gift cards along the way to purchase the pizza. But you'd only have to submit one receipt with all of the gift cards for the pizzas, 52 weeks worth of pizza. And that'll keep you from having to repeatedly enter, a $20 receipt here, a $30 receipt there. We really want to try to make it as efficient as possible. So think about how you can facilitate our needs from an impact reporting standpoint without causing yourself burden. Some organizations just don't have, they have to do smaller receipts. And so in those cases where you're going to have lots and lots of receipts, one thing that we've recommended to a lot of our grantees is to think outside the box. It doesn't have to be a state paid staff person that's entering your receipts here. It could be a volunteer. It could be a friend, whatever. Just be prepared ahead of time that if you've got a lot of them, you're going to have a little plan in place for how you're going to get those entered. The good news is you don't have to spend all your money in the first impact reporting period. You could have just one receipt, and that will facilitate our needs for reporting in this first period. So don't freak out thinking that you need to spend all of your funds now. We just need them spent by the end of the year. So you do have time. And if you have questions about the receipts, this is probably the one that we get the most questions about. Just like I said, send us an email, sign up for the open office hours, and we should be able to answer your questions in a timely fashion.
Julie, I just wanted to pop into, Kevin asked a really good question that's related to that. If the grant money is spent before the end of the year as well, that's fine. You basically won't be required to enter any more receipts than the max amount of the grant award expenses. And then those remaining reports will just become updates about the program, photos, etc. So it's okay if you also spend the money early, as long as you've spent it within the grant period.
That's a really good question. Yeah, so as soon as you're done spending the total amount or verifying that you've spent all of it, the grant report form changes. This whole receipts and invoice portion of it kind of falls off the report, and all you have to do is tell us about all the good work that you're doing and provide us with any organizational updates. So I'm going to click on next unless we have any more questions on that section. Denise has a really good question. What if our program doesn't begin before the first reporting date? So they may not have any data to report in May. And I'd say that's where, just put a value in this field. If you haven't spent any funds yet, that's fine. And just tell us, just communicate in that KPI field that your program hasn't started, that you intend to start on, whatever date. Just tell us what your plans are. It's more of a communication mechanism than anything. So I hope that answered your question, Denise. And we are working on next year's entire process to allow for grant periods that don't fall within a calendar. We have a lot of grantees that have an academic calendar. So we're trying to figure out a way that we can still efficiently manage our grants program while also facilitating, different schedules throughout the year. So the next step, after you've entered the data from your receipt, you're going to upload a PDF or image of all the receipts. We ask that you only do one receipt per file. So basically, you'll scan a receipt, give it a name, and then you're going to upload them all at once here by clicking on this add file. And then it'll let you figure out where on your computer you want to upload that from. And then I believe we have a limit of 99 files in this area, and each file is limited to a size of 25 megabytes, which is a pretty big file. So if you had 5 receipts, you're going to upload 5 PDFs here. If you had, and it can be a PDF, it can be a JPEG, PNG, or GIF. All of those file types are allowed in this section, and you can do up to 99. So if you have 102, don't worry, you can take the other 3 and enter them in the next upcoming period. When you are scanning those receipts, we do review those, so make sure that it's scanned properly. We've had lots of times where maybe the receipt was flipped upside down or side to side or crumpled or crinkled or something happened with the scanner. So just open those files, make sure they scanned properly, just so that we don't have to come back to you and say, hey, what was this? And as we mentioned before, we do not accept transaction reports from your accounting software. Bank statements and spreadsheets are also not acceptable forms for source documentation of the proof of purchase. So like I said before, receipts, invoices, statements from your vendor, those are all acceptable pieces of documentation. And if you have questions, just always go back to the IRS reporting guidelines that we share on our grant reporting page. I'm going to click on the next page just to talk a little bit about, sharing the love. We, on this next page, give you some ideas of how you can share your stories. So whether it be press releases or social media posts with success stories or, celebrating some milestones that you've achieved. Also websites or even a blog that has success stories, testimonials, and visuals. Email newsletters, blog posts, collaborative videos, public speaking engagements or events, media interviews, networking opportunities. These are all ways that you can share your stories, and you can also share about the partnership with Believe in Me and how that's making an impact for your organization. Some good examples of how we do this at Believe in Me is for each of you that's already done your big check presentation, and thank you for scheduling time with our organization to come out and celebrate the good work you're doing and just sharing the love. We have written a blog for each one of those organizations. We got pictures. We are in the process of editing some videos. But on our blog, it's called believein.me.news. You should be able to go in and find your organization, read the blog. That's a great example of how we leverage the relationship we have with you to really spread the word about how you're helping marginalized youth in the community and just really celebrating your grant award. It's just really exciting. So what we're hoping is that you are going to kind of do likewise on your various marketing channels, just to keep the word out in front of our audiences. And so in this next section, this is where we're going to ask you for any pictures, any videos, blog posts, whatever you have that you can share with our organization, with the understanding that we would love to use this to promote what you're doing out in the community. So
it's
you can put up to
12:30.
10 files in this area, and similarly, up to 25 megabytes. And you can even, if it's a bunch of stuff and you want to put it into a zip file, you can do that. And we're just hoping to find ways that we can collaborate in sharing the word about what you all have going on with your amazing programs. And then I believe this is the last page of our impact reporting form. It's all about just communicating any changes that have happened. So you can just free form type in here, if you've changed your mission, if some of your goals have changed, if you've had any changes in staff or leadership that are really going to have an impact on the outcome of the program that you've received funding for. Even modifications to the population you serve, or maybe the services that you're providing are tweaked a little bit. We would love to know about these things so that we can stay in communication. And if you're encountering any obstacles, maybe someone on our team can actually help you get connected to resources that can help you overcome those. So we believe in the power of collaboration and innovation. And we know that life happens. If COVID didn't teach us anything, it's that we need to be agile and to be able to pivot and change if things need to. So please know that our organization is very open to, life, and that if things change or you need to communicate that stuff, this is an opportunity to get that conversation started. But I also encourage you to use those open office hours to keep things rolling forward. So then you just click submit, and I believe you should receive a confirmation email in your inbox that confirms that we've received your report. And in between the time that you get that first email, which I believe is about 3 weeks before the deadline, you'll receive a series of emails just reminding you that, oh, hey, it's been a couple of weeks since we told you that, the grant reports are coming up. You'll get another one that says coming up in a week. It's coming up, tomorrow. And then today's the day. And if you are late, it's not the end of the world. We give 2 to 3 weeks grace period. We prefer for you to get them in on time because we do have routine meetings where we need to present this information to our grants administration committee. But we will work with you if things are goofy or a little strange. So please just stay in communication with our team and keep us in the know. So does anyone have any questions for our team before we wrap up the call? Stacy is asking if they can see the form and questions sooner than 3 weeks prior to the due date. So what we can do, Stacy, is I'm happy to have our team put together a PDF version of this form. You will not be allowed to submit it in PDF form, but it'll at least give you the opportunity to kind of have something tangible that you can look at and begin preparing for. I hope that answered your question, Stacy. Yeah, basically, Leslie has a good point. All the questions are right in this video, which we will be placing a recording of this video on the grant reporting page. So if you need to go back and review anything or rewatch it, that's also there. Any other questions, folks? Okay, well, it looks like we've got all the questions answered. Happy to chat with anybody if anything pops up between now and May 15th. I wish you all well and hope that this process is as streamlined and easy for you as possible. Appreciate you taking the time to sit on our call today, and we will be sending a link out to the recording should anybody want to rewatch it, and just hope everyone has a terrific weekend.